What do the drug traffickers who rebelled in Ecuador want? Leaders of two large groups escaped from prison. Criminals seized a state television studio. The Ecuadorian authorities have introduced a regime of armed internal conflict. In Ecuador, prisoners have seized 5 prisons. The leaders of the largest gangs have been released, and armed clashes continue in Guayaquil. The authorities introduced a regime of internal armed conflict. On January 9th, in Guayaquil, the most populous city of Ecuador, located 250 kilometers southwest of the capital Quito, armed people burst into the studio of the Ecuadorian state television channel, TC Televisión, and took journalists hostage. All this happened live. The screenshot, which was published by El Universo, shows 6 men in masks and hoods pointing weapons at the channel's employees lying on the floor. A few hours later, the Ecuadorian National Police reported that they had successfully freed the hostages. 13 people were arrested. Weapons, explosives, and other evidence were confiscated. The channel's employees have been released and are in a safe place. In Guayaquil, there were also attempts to seize 5 city hospitals. 2 cars and 2 motorcycles were burned. On the same day, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa signed a decree introducing a regime of internal armed conflict in the country. This document provides a list of 22 groups that are designated as terrorist organizations and belligerent non-state actors. The army was ordered to neutralize them. Why has the situation in Ecuador worsened? The situation in Ecuador escalated on January 7th when it became known that the leader of the Los Choneros criminal organization, Adolfo Macias, nicknamed Fito, Ecuadorian police associate this group with the Mexican crime syndicate Sinaloa, had escaped from prison. Fito was sentenced to 34 years in 2011 for drug trafficking, creating a criminal group, and murder. In 2013, he already escaped from custody, but was soon caught. On January 7th, he was supposed to be transported from prison number 1 in Guayaquil to the La Roca maximum security prison, but the prisoner was not in the cell. At the same time, riots broke out in several Ecuadorian prisons. According to media reports, in 5 of them, gangs are holding at least 139 people hostage. The next day, Noboa declared a state of emergency in the country that would last 2 months. The president said it would give the armed forces full political and legal support for their actions in the fight against criminals. Narco-terrorist groups are trying to intimidate us and think that we will give in to their demands. I have given clear instructions to the military and police leadership to intervene in establishing control over the prisons, Noboa said in an address to the nation quoted by TASS. On January 9th, the leader of the second largest group in the country, Los Lobos, Fabricio Colon Pico, nicknamed Captain Pico, also fled from the Chimborazo prison in the city of Riobamba. She, in particular, took responsibility for the murder of Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio in August 2023 of the year. According to the Prosecutor General's office, the escape took place amid clashes between prisoners, police, and prison staff. A total of 39 prisoners escaped. According to police, 17 of them were detained. In Guayaquil, authorities blocked roads, suspended operations at the train station, and urged the population not to leave their homes. After cases of looting were recorded in Quito, military equipment was deployed to the center of the capital, security measures at the airport were strengthened, and all educational institutions switched to remote work. International reaction. The leaders of South American countries, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, supported the Ecuadorian authorities and called for a consolidated fight against drug crime. The Organization of American States, OAS, which includes 34 countries of North and South America, expressed support for Quito. Peru has strengthened border security and introduced a state of emergency in its northern regions. Russia condemned the actions of the criminals and expressed hope that the country's authorities will be able to regain control of the situation. China also supported Quito's actions and suspended the work of its diplomatic missions in Ecuador. The United States has suspended the provision of consular services in the country. Over the past 6 months, this is the 3rd time that a state of emergency has been declared in Ecuador. In July 2023, a 60-day state of emergency was introduced in prisons due to the riots that occurred simultaneously there in August throughout the country in connection with the murder of Villavicencio. What do criminal gangs want? Experts interviewed by RBC agree that these riots have no political goals. The criminals do not intend to remove the government or stage a coup in the country. The main goal is to demonstrate their strength and show that they must be taken into account, explained the director of the Center for Ibero-American Programs of the Moscow State Linguistic University, former Russian ambassador to Argentina, 1993-1996, Jan Berliai. Prison riots in Ecuador are common. Although the seizure of a TV channel is an unprecedented case, they have not yet issued such public challenges to the authorities. the expert told RBC. Criminals control a number of economic spheres in the country quite tightly. Recently, there has also been an emerging connection between ordinary citizens and the Colombian drug mafia. They are trying to turn Ecuador into an international drug trafficking hub. Neighboring Colombia has extensive experience fighting drug traffickers, with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration actively involved. Ecuador does not have such experience, the expert noted. Since the border is quite porous, Colombian drug cartels import drugs into Ecuador and from there to other countries. According to Insight Crime, which tracks crime information in the region, among Latin American countries, Ecuador ranks second in the volume of cocaine seized, with police seizing about 180 tons of the drug in 2022. More was seized only in Colombia, 352 tons. Drug traffickers need to be given the opportunity to carry on their business. They want to show that they occupy an important place in the country. The state is not ready to tolerate an illegal structure that claims the right to violence, noted St. Petersburg State University professor and editor-in-chief of the magazine Latin America, Victor Kifitz. He noted that over the past 8 years, the crime situation in Ecuador has become worse. Back in 2016, it was in second place in terms of security in Latin America, and today it is considered one of the most unsafe countries. This is also related to drug trafficking. When he is pushed out of one place, he moves to another, from Colombia to Peru, from Peru to Mexico and Ecuador, and so on, the expert explained to RBC. But this is not the only issue. According to Heifetz, the situation was also influenced by the policies of the last two governments, Lenin Moreno and Guillermo Lasso, which reduced the role of the state in the economy. As soon as they began to reduce the presence of the state in rural regions, criminal groups took over the resulting vacuum, the expert explained. If we talk about the economic aspect, it is clear that growing half a kilo of coca is much more profitable than 50 kilos of bananas. Until states are able to provide fair prices that allow people not to live from hand to mouth, the problem with drug trafficking will continue. What will happen to Ecuadorian bananas? Ecuador is the main supplier of bananas for Russia. This country accounts for about 96% of all Russian banana imports. The consulting company NEO Center estimated in 2020. In 2022, when the largest international logistics companies refused to work with Russia due to sanctions imposed after the start of a special military operation in Ukraine, there were interruptions in the supply of bananas. At the end of 2022, imports of Ecuadorian bananas fell by 2% to 82.88 million boxes. The weight of one box is 18.14 kilos, the Ecuadorian Banana Exporters Association estimated. In January-November 2023, deliveries amounted to 67.3 million boxes, 2.8% less than in the same period of the previous year. It is too early to draw any conclusions about the impact of the unrest in Ecuador on banana supplies to Russia. At least a few days must pass, says Irina Cozy, General Director of the Berry Union and the industry agency Fruit News. Supplying bananas, she said, is a complex process that involves many enterprises, plantations, sorting centers, logistics operators, ports, and inspection authorities. The situation will depend on how affected they are, but so far there is no information, for example, that roads are being blocked in Ecuador, explains Cozy. In addition, some of the fruit is on the way. Delivery from Ecuador to Russia by sea takes 3 weeks. Cozy points out, if there is a break in banana shipments of several days, this will not significantly affect supplies, but a break of several weeks could lead to a shortage. The expert does not rule out. Banana exports from Ecuador to Russia and other countries remain normal. They have not been interrupted. Both ports and shipping lines continue to operate as usual. Richard Salazar, president of the Ecuadorian Banana Marketing and Export Association, Acorbanek, told RBC. The press service of the Lenta retail chain told RBC that they have not recorded any interruptions in the supply of products from Ecuador. At the moment, it is premature to make any forecasts, says Dmitry Leonov, deputy chairman of the board of the Rusprod-Soyuz Association. According to him, for 11 months of 2023, banana imports to Russia amounted to more than 1.306 million tons. Key supplies, more than 1.302 million tons, came from Ecuador. At the same time, Russian importers began to receive warnings from counterparties about possible interruptions in the supply of bananas. Irina Norina, president of the Association of Importers of Fruit and Vegetable Products, told RBC. She said partners warned that the panic caused by events in Ecuador had led to temporary port closures. the cancellation of container releases by most agencies, the disruption of cardboard deliveries, and the cancellation of banana cutting by producers. Suppliers have not ruled out that even if the situation stabilizes soon, due to force majeure circumstances, they will not be able to fully ship the planned volumes this week. Bananas are the most popular fruit among Russians. They account for almost 22% of all fruit purchases in retail chains, the research company Nielsen IQ estimated. Data for the year from November 2022 to October 2023. For comparison, apples accounted for 16.3% of all sales in monetary terms. The weakening of the ruble exchange rate in 2023 significantly affected the cost of bananas. In October, the cost of 1 kilogram of these fruits in retail exceeded 140 rubles for the first time, and the increase continued in November.